Hello everyone, my name is Thomas Gargaud. I am a psychiatrist in Psychiatria in Paris, and I am at the moment a full-time PhD student in computer science. I am supervised by Professor Cohen in the hospital, and Dominique, Professor Archambault, and Dr. Anzalon, who are computer scientists. I will present to you how new technologies are able to assess movement disorders in developmental coordination disorder and autism. I would like to thank you, Tomasz, Kontek, and Anna. And we particularly worked a lot with Anna with the eco-friendly working group inside the European Federation of Psychiatry Trainees, and we are thinking about recommendation to make more sustainable meetings. And I'm very proud to speak in Poland, in which you welcome the COP24 in Katowice during these days. What is developmental coordination disorder, formerly known as dyspraxia? It's a disorder in which you are problemed to do simple motor things like doing your shoelaces, jumping rope, or throwing a ball. It's quite frequent, around 5% of the population, and like in any neurodevelopmental disorder, you are much more male than female. For instance, I just learned that for preparing the lecture, you have Daniel Radcliffe, who is the actor for Harry Potter, who made public that he has this mild form of DCD, developmental coordination disorder. What is autism? Autism is another neurodevelopmental disorder, but characterized by troubles with social interaction and communication and by restricted and repetitive behavior. And very different pathologies. It's very frequent, around 1.5% of the population, and the complexity is huge. You have a lot of psychiatric comorbidities with impairments in language and motor, attention, and intelligence. And very often, autism is much more severe than dyspraxia. Even you can have a very mild form of autism and a very severe form of dyspraxia. A recent biopic who was very striking for me was a Temple Granda biopic, a film explaining her life and how she became a professor in science of ethology, so science of behavior in animals, and she developed new ways to organize the farms with the cattle and to avoid pain for animals. And in autism, since the beginning, since the first description of Kanner and Asperger, so in around the same days than Kanner, but here you have the translated article, there was description of motor disorders. And a recent meta-analysis from Fournier show there is a significant and general alteration in motor performance in people with ASD. And motor deficit is an essential characteristic of ASD. However, when we assess autism, we don't really assess the motor difficulties, and repetitive behaviors are the only motor symptomatology that is included in the diagnostic criteria. And this is very important to evaluate not only the thinking, not only the classical cognitive function, but evolving also, assess also the motion problem. Because a brain is useful for behavior, not for thinking. You have a very good demonstration of that by Henri Laborit, but also Daniel Volpert, who describe how some animals, when they stuck on a rock, don't need a brain anymore and just digest and eat their own brains. So how do we assess motion disorder in child adolescent psychiatry? There is a MABC2 in which we ask a child to do different tests, like grasping little stuff, throwing a bag, catching a bag, or just try to stay very stand and to jump, etc. So it's a quite long test, and in a very very organized assessment period, which can be very long, few hours, and can take a lot of time. And so you need to have a clinician that is assessing as objectively as possible the different behavior of the children. And you have also the BHK. So the BHK is much more specific for the writing assessment. It was developed in Netherlands, but we have this test in French too, and in France. We ask the child to copy a text for 5 minutes, and then we assess the quality of the writing. And so we have 13 different items, and we can assess if the lines are straight or not, if the writing is chaotic, or if there's a tremor on shrink or a collision between letters, for instance. The problem with this kind of scale is that it takes time to annotate, and it's quite subjective because you need to choose between 0 and 1 if there is a problem, but sometimes it can be, like any scale, can be a little subjective. And if we want, we would like to develop new technologies to better understand and to better assess the motion problems in children. And if we want to develop this, we need to keep in mind 3 axes, and we need to do some interaction between the 3 axes. We need to check if there is a need, why we need it, and what is working. If we want to develop a treatment, we need to know what is working. We need to understand technical challenges, what is possible, what we can record. And if we want to better understand the different difficulties underlying autism and developmental coordination disorder, we need to know and do circle between physiologic and pathology, and to understand cognitive function behind that. And so we need to do you need to do iteration between these 3 different points of view. And what is important at the end is to keep in mind the point of view of the child, of the teacher, and the family. And you need to assess, you need to correct something which is impairing for the child, and not something which is relevant only for you. So what can we assess? We can assess the posture of the people are standing, for instance, with OptiTrack. So you put some markers, and you have infrared light that records the position of the child. If you have a Kinect developed by Microsoft for video games, it's a classical camera, a red, green, blue camera, but you also add infrared light, a depth sensor, so you are able to know what is the position in 3D of the child. And it is interesting because they developed pictogrammas project. They developed a game with that. So you have interaction between a child and an adult, and they need to catch some stuff. They need to avoid some obstacles with virtual augmented reality. You can assess the posture with a Wii Fit board. So it was also developed for video games by Nintendo. And you can use even a classical, simple camera, and you can record the position of different joints of the child, and here the therapist on the right during a grasp game or any movement. What is interesting is that this software even allows to record, to infer the position of the legs, even he can't see it. And here you can have the position of the fingers, who are very properly assessed. The limitation of this kind of system is that you need a lot of computational power to compute the position of each joint. And in fact, you can't do it in real time really for the moment with this precision. You need to annotate, you need to compute 3 frames by second, and in a video you have 20 frames by second. You can assess the work with a pressure sensor, but you can also add accelerometers on the ankles or on the front, on the legs, on the arms. You can assess the touch by using an electronic tablet, and for instance, it was one of your Polish colleagues who assess automatically the progress among children with autism with like electronic tablet like an iPad or a pad. This is a project by our partners of EPFL, École Polytechnique Fédérale de Lausanne, in Switzerland. They developed a cellular robot, and the idea of this robot is that you can allow him to, you as a child, to catch it and to follow a layout and to catch some apples, like in the Pac-Man project. You can access also the writing on electronic tablet with a Wacom tablet. And we published an article in Natural Digital Medicine in which we were able to classify correctly the quality of the writing of the child based on the position, on the tilt, on the pressure of the pen on the tablet, which is recorded by the tablet 200 times a second. And you don't need any more 5 minutes of writing to assess correctly the child. And so this is a sum up of the talk. So you have a different system with very different precisions, and you can record an interaction or a production of movement in different time scales. I thank you for your attention. I can tell you that we are working at the moment with a robot, now robot for SoftBank, which is learning how to write, and we ask the children to teach the robot how to write. I thank you for your attention. I would like to join you for a discussion if you have any question. Thank you.